Now, one thing I've noticed over time, I've met people who have boundaries and that are very nice and, know when to stop when they're saying something that's offensive. Now, some people say, well, don't be so butthurt or, don't be such a sensitive prick, this is and that. And I used to be like that, but sometimes you're gonna get offended no matter what. Even if you're the guy that gets chewed out, spit out the most, you'll get offended in some way or form.
Guess you wonder where I've been.
Now, what they've noticed, that people be like, oh, I don't get offended by anything, but believe me, you've been offended by something. And this is why boundaries are set. Now, me and my friends, we all have boundaries, and we all get offended by certain things. So, usually if I say a joke, I have to be careful what jokes I say around certain people, because sometimes they might not like the joke I say, or sometimes they'll just find it completely hilarious. Now, the one thing that kind of baffles me the most is with what I do, some people will say things that are completely asinine, in my opinion, or in everyone's opinion. But the one thing I don't like the most is people sometimes gotta realize you can't be asking me questions that are completely personal or something, that is completely uncomfortable towards someone like me or anyone else. Now, over time, I've kind of gotten used to the irrational comments, irrational fears. Now, the one thing that people have to realize that um, not everyone's gonna agree with what you do. Um, you know, with what I do, some people may not agree. The one thing that's very difficult for many people out there, especially in the LGBT community, is that some people just can't grasp the concept or don't understand. And if they don't understand, they'll act in an irrational way or they'll just avoid you, which is really sad. That's just the thing that stresses me out the most. That people in the LGBT community are very diverse people, and even in the LGBT community, there's also discrimination. So the LGBT community isn't special at all. Same thing goes with any other community that supposedly goes against social norms or against the standards or conservative way. Um, I myself, I am not conservative. I am in some forms. I'm pretty liberal, but I don't have a political party. I don't follow anyone in general. I didn't vote for anyone in general, so I don't really like to talk about politics because I just live my life day by day, and I just kind of worry about what's around me. So I don't really like to get into those type of discussions. Now, my hair is not staying in place for this part of the video, but one thing you have to keep in mind, it's okay to get offended. You don't have to brush off everything. Um, but when that happens, you also have to directly speak and set down your boundaries. If you don't like a certain type of food and your friend's always insisting on order, tell them, hey, I don't like that food. If you have a friend that is always telling you to buy something for your car to make it run better and you can't afford it, tell them, hey man, I can't afford it, please stop bringing it up. That's the thing that I've noticed over time that I lacked, is that many people went ahead and told me things and I'd be like, ugh, but I wouldn't say anything about it because I just wasn't, I should say, willing to, put myself out there and shine the spotlight directly on the situation. And for me, honestly, I think it's better to shine the light on the situation in the beginning before it gets a lot worse. And because the reason why I say to go ahead and put out the fire before it gets bigger, because some things may lead into bigger issues if boundaries aren't set. Now, my friends have boundaries, I have boundaries, we all respect those boundaries. And to go ahead and sum up this video, what I have to say here is that whenever you're in situations when you feel uncomfortable or you feel like something's going on, don't be afraid to speak. You might offend the person when you lay down the law, but believe me, they'll come back after and they'll thank you for stopping before it just turned into something worse. Because sometimes the other person may not understand, or the other person just has never been told that before. Because maybe other people were too afraid to say anything to him, he or she. So that's something I just want to get across to you guys out there. Whenever you're in a situation where you feel like someone's saying something that's offending you, or it's offensive, or it's rude towards you, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't just sit back and don't say anything, because if you don't, it's gonna fester into something worse. And I've let it happen before, And believe me, at the end, it was just a big explosion of disaster, and it was something completely stressful that could have been avoided if it was addressed in the beginning.